Have you ever felt different? I already recorded and edited this video once, but it just didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to, so now I'm redoing it. So I was thinking about Tangled the other day, and then I just remembered that Hunchback of Notre Dame existed. Those two stories are so similar to each other. Both of them are about someone who was kidnapped and imprisoned as a child, held in a tower and told that the world outside is really dangerous and evil, and henceforth they should never leave that tower. But in truth, they were only being manipulated by the person they thought to be their parent because there was something special or different about them, and the abuser wanted to keep that all to themselves, either because they wanted to use it or because they were, I don't know, ashamed of it or something. I'm gonna give a quick rundown of each movie so that we'll know what I'm talking about. Part 1, the movies and stuff. Tangled is a movie that follows Rapunzel, who has magical hair that has vague magical abilities. It can heal old age and wounds and scars, and it can also show you a way out of a tunnel if you're stuck in it, but I think only as long as it's in water. When she was a baby, Gothel kidnapped her and took her to the tower and just raised her as her daughter in quotes, because Gothel wants to be young forever, and also the castle has terrible security. Like, it should not be that easy to kidnap a child or a crown from a castle. Also, not gonna lie, I kinda understand Gothel. Like, throughout the movie, any character we see doesn't really know that Rapunzel's hair has magical abilities, and I don't think that if I saw someone with unreasonably long hair, I would assume that, oh, maybe if I sing a magical song to it, it will suddenly heal all of my problems. And because of that, my headcanon is, if the king told everyone what the fuck he did with that flower, not only would everybody try to kidnap the child, he would no longer be king. They would overthrow him. That was an extremely selfish shit he did. In his defense, I don't think if he actually knew what the flower did, like, I'm just hoping that he didn't know what the flower actually did. Hopefully he thought that it just has really good healing abilities and didn't know that it can literally keep a person young for centuries. Anyways, that's besides the point. Gothel constantly manipulates Rapunzel into staying in the tower by telling her that the world outside is really dangerous and evil, but most importantly by constantly making her feel inferior and belittling her and nitpicking something about her.
Then I don't know why it takes so long. Sloppy, underdressed, immature, clumsy. Us, I believe, getting kinda chubby.
She finds a way somehow to just remind Rapunzel that she's incapable. And that's what really keeps Rapunzel inside, because even if the world outside is really dangerous, Gothel is going there every day, so why can't Rapunzel go as well? 2 reasons. 1, she's special. 2, she's just incapable. She can't take care of herself. That is, until one day an orphan thief breaks into the tower and suddenly Rapunzel finds proof that, hey, I'm not that incapable. I mean, I just took out this guy with a kitchen pan. Probably gave him brain damage, but I did take him out. This is the first of many steps that Rapunzel takes to realize that Gothel is lying out of her ass and she's just trying to manipulate her into staying in the tower and agreeing to let her abuse her hair. Now on to the next movie. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a really good movie if you completely forget that those rock gargoyle thingies actually exist. Have you ever watched Spirit and thought, this would have been such a great movie if Matt Damon wasn't in it? This is the same case, except this time it's
Jason Alexander, Charles Kimbrough, and Mary Wick.
Quasimodo is the infant son of a gypsy, and Frollo is the asshole who killed that gypsy. But then, since he's in Notre Dame, he has a guilt trip and realizes that he can't bring himself to kill the child. I mean, he could bring himself to kill the kid, but the nice Pope man that is there is like, hey, that's not cool of you, you just murdered his mom. And Frollo is like, oh, come on, man, the eyes of Notre Dame are staring at me, I can't do this right now. And he decides to keep Quasimodo in the bell tower and just like raise him there, I guess. Years pass, we see that Quasimodo has grown to be a really nice and sweet guy who is also an amazing artist. When you're alone in a tower for so long, you just have so much time to practice drawing hands. Judge Frollo, just like Mother Gothel, every once in a while comes to check up on Quasimodo and remind him of what a poor piece of shit he is, using the same tactics that Mother Gothel used, except that he's adding a little pinch of religion as well, just to spice things up.
Remember what I've taught you, Quasimodo. You are deformed.
I am deformed.
And you are ugly.
And Quasimodo is just in the bell tower existing, and he just kind of feels sorry for himself until an allegedly orphan thief comes into the cathedral and gives him probably the first contradiction to whatever Frollo constantly tries to feed him, and that helps Quasimodo take the first steps to becoming an atheist. The Little Mermaid is also kind of similar, except that this time it's not just the person who's being abused that's different, but the whole family. Ariel is a mermaid and so is her entire family, but she just really wants to go walk on land because it's just so fun to pay taxes. But because of a traumatic event that we learn about in a low-budget prequel, her father just really doesn't want people to go near the ocean surface, so he's forbidden from doing that, but she just can't stop herself because she's 16. Remember what I said about 18-year-olds being delusional? Yeah, guess what a 16-year-old is like. So here, Ariel is special and so is her family because they're all mermaids, and she wants to go to the land, but I can't say she's being abused, but she's being treated really badly by her father, and the Sea Witch decides to manipulate her into thinking that it's a great idea to sell her voice in exchange for a pair of legs. Also, I just want to add, Ariel doesn't leave behind her entire family and all the people she knows because of a guy. She wanted to experience life on land even before she knew the guy existed. She was always curious about it. What pushed her over the edge was the fact that her father just destroyed everything she spent so much time collecting. Leaving everything behind for a guy wasn't what she was obsessed about, it was what Ursula was obsessed about, because that was all she knew about Ariel. All the info she managed to gather about her was that she's kinda into the surface and she has a crush on this guy who's got legs, so she's probably into surface because this guy has legs, so I'm just gonna like convince her to give me her voice because hey, women not talking is hot anyway. The entire focus of the movie shifted on Ariel dating the guy because Ursula said in order to keep your legs you have to kiss him. The problem isn't Ariel, the problem is the villain and the writing to a certain degree. Part 2. My tragic backstory. You might think I had a costume change because it's a different day, but no, I just spilled tea on myself. I went to this advanced placement middle school. The exact word we use is not advanced placement, but that was the best translation I could find. It's this prestigious school for really smart kids, and you know they're really smart because there's an entrance exam that is really hard for no reason at all. I was one of the 100 unfortunate children who managed to get into that school. Unfortunately, it was really brutal. I don't know how I survived that. It was extremely stressful. We had to take weekly exams of all subjects and we would be punished and humiliated if we didn't get the full score. And the teachers took every chance they could find to throw the R word at us. The principal once took me to her office and told me that she wanted to expel me because I got the lowest GPA in the entire school. My GPA was 96.8 out of 100. Me and a lot of other kids would go home with teary eyes every week and ask our parents to take us to a normal middle school, but they wouldn't because the thrill of telling other people that my child goes to this really prestigious school that your child was not smart enough to get into would just always outweigh our tears. So I had to endure that shit for 3 years, but then there was another entrance exam for high school and I saw my chance and I took it. I did not answer one question correctly on that entrance exam. If I knew the answer to a test, I would choose the wrong option, and if I didn't know the answer, I would not answer it because I wasn't taking any chances. So luckily for me, I didn't get accepted into the AP school, which is why you see me here today. What made the AP middle school so hard wasn't just the fact that the teachers were asshole or the principal was an asshole or the tests were unnecessarily hard. It was that everyone was a fucking dick. That school was like if you put
everyone's special dash, which is another way of saying no one is,
to the test. Some of the most talented people I've ever met went to that school. All of them were fucking not because there was something wrong with them necessarily. I mean, you're in middle school, you don't even have a personality yet. You just suddenly remember that, oh shit, I'm like experiencing life in first person. The environment of that school just asks for that kind of personality because academically we are all gifted and we were all really good, so there was nothing setting us apart, and the teachers love to give us shit and tell us that we don't deserve to be here and there's nothing special about us and we're just such stupid idiots. Gina, bia tu. My cat just came in. Hi. Hoi. You're put into this environment for people who are gifted, but suddenly everyone is gifted or special in the exact same way that you were. And because of that, you're no longer really that different, at least in the environment that you're in. And that's the issue, because after leaving that school, I realized that it was just this really toxic place where we had to just claw at each other, trying to find something to set ourselves apart from other kids and other people around us so that we could feel some sort of validation. You've been playing the piano since you were 4? You think that's enough? There's this other kid who plays guitar, piano, violin, and the flute. Thinking about my own experience and also watching these movies made me wonder, why is it that when you're different than other people, doesn't matter if it's in a positive or negative way, chances of you not being traumatized because of that are really low. Somehow someone will always find a way to abuse you and exploit you. I mean, I really want to come up with some deep explanation for this, but it's as simple as we as people are just really picky with what we deem acceptable. Majority of people just don't like something different. Doesn't matter if it's a positive or a negative, because it's different. Sometimes you're lucky enough to just be born in a family that is really supportive, or have people around you that can support you and can understand you and love you. But a lot of times you're not that lucky, and you're also a child, so you don't really have much authority over your life anyways. Like in all of these stories, the main characters is somewhere around 16 to like about 20, and they start to gain some authority over their lives as they get older, which is also the case in real life. Like when you're a child and you're different, you can't do anything about it, and people will be mean to you, and you're just gonna have to deal with that until you get older and you can like pick and choose who you interact with and who you keep in your life, and then you can create a better environment for yourself. One thing I didn't like about The Little Mermaid and Tangled was that in the end of the story, the way they escaped their toxic environment was by leaving behind what made them special or different. By the end of Tangled, Rapunzel does leave her tower, but she leaves her hair with it. I mean, it's not really by choice, it's kind of like Eugene's desperate attempt at saving her life. But even in the case of Ariel, her happily ever after is her having legs. She left behind what made her different. And until a couple years ago, I genuinely thought that that's the only way for someone who's different, whether you're different because you're just, I don't know, academically gifted, or you're different because you have a disorder or a physical disability, the only way for you to find community is to leave that behind, to not be different anymore. Which is why I really liked Quasimodo's happy ending. It didn't end with him suddenly becoming a really handsome prince. He still looks the way he did. He always looked that way. The issue was never the way he looked. It's that the people around him were fucking. And in the end, he finds people who love him and accept him as he is. He makes friends who know him. He doesn't have to leave behind whatever made him different, because he can't. At the end of the day, it's part of you and it's gonna come with you. You just have to try to find people who get that. You don't need a community, you need a friend group. I think a lot of times we try to fit into the wrong place. When you're different in any way, it's gonna be really hard to fit into a community. A community is that they are either living in the same place or they have one common characteristic. What if you have one common characteristic with one community and 20 characteristics that are the absolute opposite of whatever that community has? You're not gonna fit in. You just need to find good friends who understand you and support you, which is much easier said than done. Because of social media, it's so easy to feel like we're just all the same. Like, imagine if you're 1 in a million. There's only 8,000 of you in the entire world. That's a really small number. Like, if you had 8,000 followers on Instagram, it wouldn't even bother to put a K next to it. And you don't need to see 8,000 of the same type of person to feel like, hey, they're like really common. You just need to see like maybe 100. And then you're gonna think that there's so much of this type of person, even though that's not true. Even if you're 1 in 100 and there's like 3 million of you in the US, there's still only 3 million of you. What are the chances of you meeting one of those 3 million in your school? It's gonna be easier to find those types of friends through the internet, but I think we do need like a physical friend group, like people that you can go out and hang out with. A lot of times it's harder and you need to really go out of your way to find those people. Maybe some of them live like an hour away. If they get you and you get them and you fit in, it's worth it. And remember that if there's something that makes you different, whether society deems that a good different or a bad different. The majority of times you can't really change that. You can try to not show it, but you can't, leave that behind. But yeah, that's the conclusion. It's really uncomfortable, but go out of your way to find friends. This is not an excuse to be a bigot. If your way of being different is being homophobic or xenophobic or any type of phobic, you're not different. You're just a tryhard. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Kids, don't be racist.